Today, we're gonna find out how far the Zeekr X all-wheel drive can go on a full charge of battery, going a constant 120 kph or 75 miles an hour. We'll also be testing the accuracy of the route planner, measuring road noise, as well as me giving you guys my first driving impressions of this small SUV from China/Sweden. All of this and more in today's video. I know, guys, I have not been the most positive person when it comes to the Zeekr brand, or rather their products. So earlier this year I went to the 7X launch in Portugal and I had a whole bunch of issues with the car they gave me. Icons blinking, navigation waypoints not wanting to register, and overall just a very frustrating experience. And then I had a 001 on loan a few weeks later in Norway, and that experience was even worse because that's a car that has been in production for quite some time and it was riddled with flaws, with ADAS issues and things just not working, and just a weirdly set up car with weird issues. But a few months ago, I had a 7X on loan for a whole week of testing, did all of my testing, and I was happy to report that that car pretty much improved. An impressive car, especially at its price point. Yes, it has a few features and things that I'm not a huge fan of personally, but as an electric car, as an experience, it is pretty good. Zeekr, in my mind, had pretty much redeemed most of the faults they had done earlier. So with all of that being said, with all of that prefacing, I went into this test week pretty positive. I mean, this is a cool small package. I remember I first, I looked at this car almost 2 years ago at the eCar Expo in Oslo, and I was very impressed by this interior. And I'm still very impressed by this interior with beautiful materials here and there. And this is a small, SUV at a good price point, and it also, has pretty good performance. But, and it is a big but, this car also has strange issues I find with Chinese cars. Today it's been quite annoying, it's been quite frustrating. For example, a very sensitive forward collision warning where it just beeps and binks at you at the slightest hint of a car in your field of view. Super annoying. And also the lane keep assist, or the auto steer functionality, when the road markings are bad, it activates and deactivates quite a bit, more so than other cars I've experienced, but it also binks and bonks every time it activates and deactivates, which is very, very annoying. Also, this touchscreen, not the most, responsive to use. And also, it can't find the ST1 station where we usually turn around in Moel, which is our halfway point. And it even has the old maps and the new Zeekr maps, which they tell me to use the new one because it's better, but I'm just using the old one because the old one at least, has its predicted arrival percentage and, a decent route planner. Where in the 7X, that didn't work. So I haven't even tried it here. Maybe it works here, but I'm gonna use the old one until the new one seems to be working better. Or let's just try that on camera. Navigation. No, that's not the one. It's called Zeekr Navigation. Let's see if it has a route planner. Let's go Moel, because it can't find the ST1. Moel. Oh, it actually has a predicted percentage at arrival. This says 54%. The other one said... Oh, let's find the other one. The icons are exactly the same. They're just mirrored. The other one says 56%. So that is interesting that they show different percentages. But okay, guys. And also the... outside temperature gauge is overly optimistic. When I hopped into this car this morning, the car was sitting in the sun, but the app showed 8 degrees Celsius outside. My outside temperature outside my kitchen in the shadows showed 8 degrees Celsius. When I jumped into the car, it said 16 degrees Celsius. And after even 15 minutes of driving, it still said like 14 degrees Celsius. So it's saying 13. I'm not gonna trust that. I'm gonna use the weather data when editing this at this date and time. It's currently, what's the time now? It's almost 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So I'm gonna use that weather data passing here instead of trusting this. And also, in typical fashion,
You have to run the AC pretty warm to get any, decent temperature. Again, a lot of, Chinese car issues I've experienced in Chinese cars. So this tells me that yes, this car may be designed in Sweden, and Zeekr is, a joint Chinese-Swedish operation. I think this specific car was actually researched and developed in China for the Chinese market and then brought to Europe later on. That's just my personal opinion, because that was the case with the 001. And though this is better when it comes to the ADAS functionality, but this is also on a different platform, it's not great, this car. It's not great. But okay, I'm going to talk more about that in my review later on. And also, yeah, this is the most frustrating thing. So I have a trip computer in front of me, and it shows the average consumption, but since last charge, and I can change that going into the My Car app here, and it shows trip 1, trip 2. It doesn't say it's since last charge. It says that over here as what you can show last charge or last key off, key on cycle, but that doesn't reset when you leave the car for like 10 minutes. So there's no way for me to reset the trip computer that shows me kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. Trip 1 here does not show that, and trip 2 does not show that. It only shows total consumption. So I'm gonna have to put it on for you guys on the screen now, my actual in post edit, just calculating. After 60 kilometers, we've used 15.0 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. I'm gonna put that, no. After 60 kilometers, we've used 15 kilowatt hours total. So I'm going to put the conversion to kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers on the screen for you guys. So that's our consumption after 31 minutes and 60 kilometers. Yeah, I mean, this car is just a puzzle to use. Like, it's just unintuitive, and having to just convert units on the go. Yeah, that's not a good start. That's not a good start, Zeekr, with your X. Before we arrive at our turnaround point, I just quickly wanted to touch upon the ADAS, the Advanced Driver Assistance Systems in this car. So on the SEA, the big SEA platform, Polestar 4, Zeekr 001, and also even the 7X, there have been issues with these systems, in my opinion. Especially activation is very, very slow. Because of all the checks and balances the system has to go through before it activates. This is the explanation I've gotten from the ADAS team on the Polestar 4, the actual engineers. I have a video on that, speaking to them about that. I'm going to link that down below. But I'm happy to report that on this small SEA platform, no issues at all activating. There's no delay, and it helped that this has physical, hard buttons. But even though there's no issue with activation, and also it tracks pretty center, but you guys saw sometimes it does, ping pong a little bit in the lane. But I rather prefer the car ping ponging, tight within the markings rather than on the actual markings, which has been the case here, where it ping pongs, very tight. So I wouldn't even call it ping pong, maybe just, chasing the lane a little bit. I don't know the terminology we would use, but it's pretty solid and no issues with the lane centering or auto steer. Okay, we are now here, and I have to say, what a beautiful day today. I mean, the weather is impeccable. It's late September. It's getting pretty cold really quickly here in Eastern Norway. Actually, too quick than I remember the past few years, but okay. So we are currently here with 54% stated charge, and the car predicted we would be maybe about a kilometer down the road with 61. So that is 6 or 7% less. And when we started, the car predicted we would be back with 35% stated charge. So we'll have to see what the actual percentage is when we get back to our unity in Dal. And also halfway, 95 kilometers, we have used 22.7 kilowatt hours. Okay, before we get back to where we started this range test earlier today, I just wanted to talk a little bit about how this car has been to drive on the motorway. So it is relatively quiet. We're going to go through the noise test measurements in just a bit. So relatively quiet, tire noise nicely suppressed, and also wind noise actually pretty impressively suppressed, especially considering that this has, the frameless mirrors we've seen in other, Geely Group products, where in some cars they, give off quite a bit of buffeting off the window here. And also the suspension, very softly sprung. Maybe too soft for my liking, but that means it is quite comfortable. And also these seats, quite comfortable. 2 hours on the road now sitting here, and you know, they do offer quite nice support, pretty nice side bolstering, though they are lacking a little bit of under thigh support. So for me, they are a little bit short, lacking about this much. So for shorter trips, it's not too bad, but I think maybe for like going a whole day of driving, it would probably be a little bit too short for my liking. Okay, we are now here. This is our exit. And again, what a beautiful day to be out doing a range test. Really nice getting out of the city today, just driving and seeing nature. So we're gonna stop the timer here. 1 hour and 40 minutes, quite a quick run. And also I'm gonna give you the report on the battery percentage when we stop at the charger, and also the consumption. Okay, why are you beeping? Why is the car beeping? So annoying. Why are you beeping? Why are you beeping? You're beeping, but there's like no message. I have no idea. So here we are. We arrived with 16% state of charge. So let's hop out now, see what charge speed we get at that state of charge after driving on the road for a few hours. Okay, so I've now started the charger from the app, and we have the charge port here on the rear driver side, and then we have one flap for the DC port, no, the AC port, and then one for the DC port here. And then, yeah, this is ready. So let's see if we can do this one-handed. There we go. And this is built on the same platform as the Volvo EX30. So underneath, this is basically pretty much the EX30 twin performance with you know, the same performance. There's also that same 65 kilowatt hours of usable capacity, meaning a peak charging speed of 158 kilowatts. Okay, we are now connected and the car is charging. 16% state of charge. We should see that peak of close to 158 kilowatts, because this car below 10% is not going to get it, but above 10% in my experience, this battery pack should get close to that peak. So 151, I don't think that is too bad. 152, considering we have not preconditioned the battery and we don't have super warm temperatures outside. Now let's go through the results of the noise test measurements first. So at every speed, we do 2 measurements, 2 minutes each, and then we get an average from that. So at 80 kilometers an hour, that averages out to 65.5 decibel. At 100 kilometers an hour, those 2 measurements average out to 66.5 decibel. And at 120 kilometers an hour, again, those 2 measurements, 2 minutes each, average out to 69.5 decibel. So I think that is actually pretty good. And if we look at other cars in this segment, when we're talking about this size of vehicle, that is one of the best results we've ever had in summer. This is a relatively quiet car. Road noise is the most prevalent here, but wind noise is exceptionally well suppressed. So after doing some calculations, I arrived at an average consumption during today's conditions of 24.5 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. So when we do the maths, we take the battery pack size, 65 kilowatt hours usable, divided by that consumption, and then we subtract 3% for heat and discharging losses. That gives this car a theoretical range under today's conditions of 263 kilometers, which is barely 60% of the claimed WLTP rated range, which would be acceptable if it was cold, if it was winter, if it was raining, if we had bad weather. But today, I mean, it's pretty much like 10-12 degrees Celsius during the whole day, even though the car thinks it's 23. That is completely wrong. But we've had really nice conditions, sunny weather, and also basically no winds at all. And I think considering that today's consumption is very high and today's range is very low. Pretty disappointed with the results of this car, if I may say so myself. But guys, let me know what you think of the results of the Zeekr 7X. I'm not impressed. And if you want to see how this car fares at 80 and 100 kilometers an hour, I'm going to link my Norwegian channel and my Norwegian range test down below. And if you want to support the channel, go subscribe to that channel, because I'm really trying to grow that to 10,000 subscribers before the end of the year. We just passed like 1,200 subscribers during the weekend, which is amazing. Thank you very much, guys. And also, I usually upload videos there first. So if you want free early access, just check out my Norwegian channel. So guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please drop me a thumbs up down below. And for more car content, as always, please subscribe. See you guys later and goodbye.